The gun barrel pressed against the back of Soren Vale's skull. He didn't flinch. 6 men surrounded him on the dock, their boots scraping wet concrete. Somewhere behind them, a crane groaned under its own weight. Soren's cane tapped once against the ground and went still. "Last chance," one of the men said. "Tell us what you heard." Soren's grip on the cane tightened. He could smell salt water and gun oil. He could hear breathing. Fast, uneven, nervous. These men weren't used to killing someone who wasn't afraid. Hi viewers, quick question before we go further. If you were standing where Soren is right now, blind, surrounded, outnumbered 6-1, would you stay calm or would you fight? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to know. Soren lifted his chin. "Before you do whatever you've been ordered to do," he said, voice steady, "may I ask one question?" No one answered. The man behind him pressed the gun harder into his skull. "Did someone named Noel Arden," Soren said, "ever forgive himself?" The dock went silent. A phone clattered out of someone's hand. Boots stopped shifting. The man holding the gun took a step back like he'd touched fire. Then a new voice cut through the quiet. Low, controlled. The kind of voice that made grown men lower their eyes. "Who told you that name?" Soren turned his head slightly, though he couldn't see the man approaching. He didn't need to. He could feel the weight of him. The way the air changed, the way every soldier on that dock straightened like soldiers do for a general. Cashin Rourke stepped out from behind a shipping container, hands loose at his sides, jaw tight enough to crack stone. 5 years of careful control sat behind his eyes, and in one sentence, a blind stranger had cracked it wide open. "Answer me," Cashin said again, closer now. "Who told you Noel's name?" Soren didn't answer right away. He let the silence stretch, the way he always did when a room needed to catch its breath. "I used to work at a rehabilitation center," he finally said. "Years ago, for people who'd lost their sight or were learning to live without it." Cashin's men shifted uneasily. One of them, a thick-shouldered lieutenant named Marcus, stepped forward. "Boss, this is a setup. Don't listen to him." Cashin raised a hand. Marcus went quiet. "There was a man there," Soren continued. "Hurt bad. Wouldn't give his real name. He stayed 3 weeks before he disappeared." "That doesn't mean anything," Marcus snapped. "Could be anyone." Soren's voice didn't waver. "He used to sit by the window every night and talk to no one. He said your name like it hurt to say it. Cashin. Over and over. Like he was trying to memorize the sound before he lost it." Cashin's hands curled into fists. He hadn't heard anyone say Noel's name out loud in 5 years. Not his men. Not himself, not since the funeral that never had a body in the casket. Marcus leaned toward Cashin, voice low. "He's lying. He has to be. End this now before it gets worse." Cashin didn't move. His eyes stayed locked on Soren's face. On the calm there, the kind that didn't belong to a man who was making things up to save his own life. "He left something behind for you," Soren said quietly. The words landed like a dropped weight. Soren reached into his coat, slow enough that 3 guns followed his hand the entire way. He pulled out a small black recorder, no bigger than a matchbox, and held it out toward the sound of Cashin's breathing. "He hid this in the lining of my cane," Soren said. "Told me if anyone ever asked about him, by name, I'd know it was time to give it back." Cashin took it without a word. His fingers shook, just slightly, as he pressed play. Static first, then breathing, then a voice. Rough, weak, but unmistakably Noel's. "If you're hearing this," the recording said, "someone close to you betrayed us." The recording cut out. Just static after that. Cashin pressed play again. Same static. Same silence where answers should have been. That's all of it, Soren said. It's been damaged a long time. I never could fix it. Marcus stepped in fast. This proves nothing. A few seconds of garbled audio? He could have recorded that himself. This is a trap, Cashin, and you're falling right into it. Cashin said nothing. He stared at the recorder like it might start talking again if he waited long enough. Behind them, 200 feet back near the warehouse stacks, a figure stood in the shadow of a container, watching everything. Watching Soren. Watching the recorder change hands. The figure raised a phone and typed one short message. He has it now. By midnight, an order went out. Quiet, careful, untraceable back to anyone in the room. Soren Vale would not survive until sunrise. Cashin moved Soren into one of his private estates that same night. A stone house on the edge of the city where few of his men even knew the address. He told himself it was about answers. About the recording. About finding out what Noel had been trying to say before the words disappeared into static. It wasn't only that, and some small part of him knew it. Inside the estate, an older advisor named Wallace reviewed surveillance footage from the docks, frame by frame, late into the night. He found something. A discrepancy in the timeline, a gap of 9 minutes nobody could explain. By morning, Wallace brought it straight to Cashin. "Look at this," Wallace said, sliding a tablet across the table. Soren's story doesn't line up. He says he stumbled onto the docks looking for a missing kid. But this shows him there 20 minutes before any child went missing. Cashin stared at the footage. The timestamp was clean, official, the kind of thing that didn't lie. Except Soren had never once changed his story. Still, doubt crept in where certainty used to live, and certainty was the only thing that had kept Cashin alive this long. He didn't confront Soren. Not yet. Instead, he watched him from a distance. Watched him spend his afternoons with the neighborhood kids who'd lost parents to the same world Cashin had built. Watched him teach a boy named Eli how to find a piano key by feel alone. One finger guiding another, patient in a way nothing in Cashin's life had ever been patient. One evening, Eli tugged on Cashin's sleeve while Soren sat across the courtyard, head bowed. "Mr. Soren cries every night," Eli whispered, "when he thinks nobody's watching." Cashin found the journal 3 days later, in a church Noel used to visit, hidden beneath a loose floorboard behind the altar. The leather cover was warped from age and damp. Inside, page after page of small, careful handwriting, dates, numbers, names. Noel's handwriting. Cashin would have known it anywhere. He read by the light of a single candle, alone, the way he used to sit with Noel in that same church years ago. The early entries were about nothing. Daily routines, small worries, a few lines about missing home. Then, halfway through, the tone shifted. "I think someone close to Cashin is moving money that shouldn't exist. I don't want to believe it, but the numbers don't lie even when people do." Cashin's stomach turned cold. Page after page laid it out. Shipments that didn't match invoices, meetings that happened off the books, payments routed through companies that didn't exist anywhere official. Noel hadn't been a victim of some rival family. He'd found a traitor inside Cashin's own walls. The last legible entry, dated 3 days before Noel disappeared. Read only. "If something happens to me, look at the one person everyone trusts without question. That's where it's hiding." Cashin sat back, candle flickering against the journal's pages, his pulse loud in his own ears. He turned to the final page, the one entry Noel had underlined twice, hard enough to tear the paper. One name. Lucien Graves. Lucien Graves smiled across the table like a man with nothing to hide. Cashin smiled back, just as easy, just as practiced. 2 men who'd known each other 15 years. sitting in a room neither of them trusted anymore. "You wanted to talk shipping numbers," Lucien said, sliding a folder across the table. "So let's talk shipping numbers." Cashin didn't open it. "Numbers can wait." Something flickered behind Lucien's eyes. Small. Quick. Gone before most people would have caught it. Cashin caught it. For 3 days he dug through everything Lucien touched. Accounts, contacts, old emails buried under newer ones. Wallace helped where he could, quiet and careful, the two of them working past midnight more than once. What they found didn't add up to coincidence. Money moving through companies that didn't exist. Wars that started right when Lucien's profits needed a boost. A pattern repeating year after year, hidden under the noise of an empire too big for anyone to watch every corner of. Cashin kept his face still. "How's the family?" he asked. "Good. You should come by sometime." "Maybe I will." Across the city, in a small apartment above a flower shop, Soren sat near an open window with his cane resting against his knee. A car had nearly hit him that morning, brakes failing at the exact moment he stepped into the crosswalk. The driver said it was an accident. Soren didn't believe in those kinds of accidents anymore. He thought about the 3 people who knew his location that day. Cashin, Wallace, and Lucien. His phone buzzed. A text from Cashin. "Stay inside tonight. Don't open the door for anyone." Soren's hand tightened around the cane. He had a feeling tonight wasn't going to be quiet. The trap was simple. That was the point. Cashin leaked one piece of false information. A fake meeting, a fake location, fed through a single trusted channel that only 3 people had access to. If the leak reached outside ears, he'd know exactly who carried it. By evening, his phone rang. A contact, breathless, warning him that mercenaries were already moving toward the fake location. Only one person had passed along that information. Lucien. Cashin's hands went cold and steady at the same time, the way they always did right before something broke. He drove straight for Lucien's office. Empty. Desk cleared. A single drawer left open like Lucien hadn't bothered to hide that he'd run. Then his phone rang again. Not Wallace. Not a soldier. Lucien. "Looking for me?" Lucien's voice was calm, almost bored. "I have something of yours." In the background, faint, Cashin heard it. A cane tapping once against a hard floor. "Don't touch him," Cashin said. "That depends on you." Lucien's voice dropped lower. "You're sweet. Dead Noel found everything years ago. Every account. Every shipment. He was going to bring it all down." Cashin's grip on the phone tightened until his knuckles went white. "He didn't betray you," Lucien said. "I made sure of that part myself." The words hit harder than any bullet could have. "You have 1 hour," Lucien said. "Bring everything you have on me, or your blind little secret doesn't make it to morning." The line went dead. Cashin stood alone in the empty office, Noel's name still echoing in his ears, and somewhere across the city, Soren was running out of time. The warehouse sat at the edge of the harbor, the same stretch of water where this had all started. Cashin arrived alone. No army behind him, no backup waiting in the shadows. Just him, a recorder in his jacket pocket, and 1 hour that had already started slipping away. Inside, Lucien stood beside a chair where Soren sat, hands bound, cane resting just out of reach on the floor. "No guns?" Lucien asked, almost disappointed. "I expected more drama from you." "You wanted a confession," Cashin said. "Not a body count." Lucien laughed, short and humorless. "Careful. Mercy doesn't suit men like us." "Maybe not," Cashin said. "But truth does." He kept Lucien talking. About the money. About the years of staged wars. About Noel. How he'd found the records first, how Lucien had panicked, how the kidnapping had never been a kidnapping at all. Every word landed on the recorder hidden in Cashin's pocket. Behind Lucien, two of his men exchanged a look neither of them tried to hide. They'd followed him into a fortune, not into murdering a blind man and burying years of betrayal under more bodies. When Lucien reached for his weapon, his own men didn't move to help him. Cashin moved first, fast, controlled. He got between Lucien and Soren before the gun ever cleared its holster, and within seconds it wasn't a fight anymore. It was over. Lucien's men stepped back, hands raised, done following a man who'd lied to them for years. Cashin knelt beside Soren, cutting the ropes from his wrists with steady hands that didn't feel steady at all. "You came," Soren said quietly. "I should have come sooner." On the floor, Lucien sat against the wall, beaten, cornered, out of moves. He looked up at Cashin with something almost like relief. "There's one more thing," Lucien said. "Noel knew something bigger. Something he never got to tell you." Cashin went still. "What?" Lucien didn't answer right away. He let the silence stretch the same way Soren had on the dock, the same way that always meant something true was coming. "Noel didn't just find my accounts," Lucien said. "He found a way out, for all of it, the whole operation. He had a plan to bring the entire syndicate down, clean, without anyone else getting hurt." Cashin's jaw tightened. "Why would he do that?" "Because he loved you," Lucien said. "And he knew this life would kill you long before any bullet did." The words sat heavy in the warehouse, heavier than anything Lucien had confessed to that night. Federal investigators arrived within the hour, called in by Wallace the moment Cashin gave the signal. Lucien was taken out in handcuffs, his men following close behind, the empire he'd built on lies collapsing in a single night. Cashin didn't fight the charges that came for his own organization. He handed over records, accounts, years of operations, piece by piece, until there was nothing left to protect. Power disappeared fast once a man stopped defending it. Freedom came slower, but it came. Months later, Soren stood in a building that used to be a warehouse, now filled with pianos and soft afternoon light, blind children laughing somewhere down the hall. He'd built it from what the courts let him keep, a music and rehabilitation center, the kind of place Noel had always wanted to build but never got the chance. Cashin served his time quietly, no headlines, no spectacle. The system worked the way it was supposed to, for once. If you've made it this far, you already know this story isn't really about revenge. It's about what happens after, when someone chooses truth over pride, even when truth costs everything. If a story like that means something to you, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because more stories like this one are coming, and you won't want to miss them. The invitation came with no return address. Just a date, a time, and an address Cashin didn't recognize. He almost didn't go. But something about the handwriting on the envelope made him change his mind. He arrived at a building wrapped in soft light, music drifting through open windows before he even reached the door. Inside, a row of children sat at pianos, fingers finding keys by feel, laughing between mistakes the way children do when nobody's told them yet that mistakes matter. Soren stood near the back, listening, his cane resting against the wall beside him. He didn't turn when Cashin walked in. He didn't need to. "You came," Soren said. "I told you I would." Neither of them said much after that. They didn't need to fill the silence the way people used to. They just stood together, listening to a song one of the children played. Clumsy, uneven, beautiful in the way only unfinished things can be. It was Noel's favorite melody. Neither man said his name. They didn't have to. Some wounds don't close completely. They just stop controlling everything around them. Cashin had spent 5 years burying his grief under violence, convinced that strength meant never feeling anything at all. He'd learned the hard way that the strongest thing a person can do is stop protecting their pride and start facing what's true, even when the truth breaks them first. If this story moved you, tell us in the comments what part stayed with you the longest. Someone out there might need to read it today. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and don't miss the next story. Because somewhere, someone is always waiting for a little more hope.